Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Who and How Club. It's your boy Arys Déjan checking in. How are you doing today? This is not a solo episode. Today's episode is actually a guest episode. And I'm really excited for all of you to have a listen to the upcoming episode, whatever you're about to listen to today. The reason why I'm checking in before I play this episode, I thought that it was only right to invite you all into the podcast world and the TWHC world and the world of Arys. And I think our guests for today would want me to share this as well, just out of respect for their relationship, work relationship and friendship, or the friendship that they had. As we all know, sometimes things work out, sometimes things don't. And when they don't work out, it's still okay. It's not, the end of the world. Not everything will be perfect, and neither will friendships be. Family. I talk a lot about family ships, relationships, friendships on the show. And the guests that we're going to sort of introduce you all to today, they shared a friendship. They shared a working relationship as well, a co-hostship on a podcast called No Shame Babe. These lovely ladies are from Edmonton, Alberta, and I was blessed to have them on the show back in July. And like I mentioned, they were the co-hosts of No Shame Babe, the No Shame Babe podcast. Now that podcast is no longer, and their friendship has sort of dissolved since the recording of this episode. But they're both doing really well and doing healthy, and sort of split up into their own little corners and have created their own individual platforms, which I want to shed light on. But I thought it was important to preface with, if you hear us speaking about the No Shame Babe podcast on today's episode of TWHC, you won't be able to look up that, indulge in that podcast. The podcast is no more. I'm not quite sure if they have the episodes that they've created together still up. But if you want to follow these ladies individually, you could follow Kerstin and Jaymie on their own individual platforms. Now, Kerstin is Kerstin, KERSTIN _WIEBE. And she has created her own podcast called The Girls Got Grit Pod. So if you follow her page that I just mentioned, you'll have access to her own show that she's launched. And her show focuses on, a lot of stuff, a lot of positive things like mental health and self-love, empowerment, authenticity. That's the vibe that she has gone with her podcast. So that's the Girls Got Grit Pod. You're going to hear Kerstin speak on today's episode of the Who and How Club. So you'll get to know her before going ahead and following her platform and getting used to her new podcast. All right. So that's the Girls Got Grit Pod, hosted by Kerstin. And she's a self-love enthusiast. You'll enjoy her perspective and her mindset and her experience. I'm sure a lot of you ladies will be able to relate to her. The other individual who's on the show today, Jaymie, like I mentioned, she's created her own platform as well, which is called the House of Shame podcast. So if you follow Jaymie on her, follow the podcast. It's the House of Shame podcast, HAUSSHAMEPODCAST. And that's hosted by Jaymie, and her handle is Jam Curry, JAMCURRIE. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't normally do this. This is already like almost 10 minutes in, and I really just wanted to show respect to these lovely ladies and their platforms and the TWHC platform. I think it's important to be transparent with our supporters and listeners. Jaymie's show focuses on dating, sex, mental health as well, memes, funny stuff. She's a really in-depth person, and I think you'll benefit from hearing her speak. And I recently made an appearance on the House of Shame podcast, so that episode should be coming out really soon. So follow these two lovely ladies. Today's episode is really deep. We dive into some really deep stuff. We even share tears with each other and really, these somber moments, and we talk about deep stuff together. So regardless of their relationship status or their friendship status at the moment, we were all still able to come together and have a beautiful conversation, and you're going to be a witness to all of that. So enjoy today's episode. If there's anything that you hear, feel free to touch base with me or Jamie or Kerstin, and let's wish them well and send them all positive energy, and hopefully they'll get the band back together at some point. Friendships should last, and even if they don't, it doesn't mean that there's beef or anything like that. If it's their time, it's their time, right? And not everything lasts forever, and that's okay as well. But I love these ladies. I respect them, and it would be great for them to work their differences out and just work together somehow, some way, even if it's not in the podcast realm, in some sort of realm. So enjoy. Love you all. I'll check in with you in about a week. And stay safe, stay positive, believe in yourself. Don't care what people think about you. And welcome to the Who and How Club. If you're a first-time listener, you are the Who and How Club. I am the Who and How Club, and we are the Who's and How's of this world. Without you, without me, there is no we. And today's episode represents the definition of we. Enjoy. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Who and How Club. It is your boy, Arys Déjan, checking in. You know the slogan, you are the Who and How Club, I am the Who and How Club, and we are the Who's and How's of this world. Without you, without me, there is no we. So while we're here together, we might as well just spend time, sharing our personal experiences with one another, sharing our stories so we could just learn from one another. We all share this thing called life, and we're all living it in our own unique ways. So let's have a talk about it and share. Right? So today's a really special episode because I think it's been a pretty long time since I've had some women on the show. It's been a long time. I've had a lot of men show up to the table. So this is kind of some good vibes for today. We're on Zoom today with two unique individuals who are also fellow podcasters. I think you two are the first fellow podcasters I've had on the show. So we're breaking ground today.
Okay, cool.
We're gonna talk about our experiences as podcasters and being in this realm, but also you two individually. If you want to introduce yourselves to the world.
I'm like, Kerstin, you go first, but I'll go first. I'm Jamie, and I'm the co-host of No Shame Babe podcast.
Yes. Your turn in the corner over there.
I'm Kerstin. I am the other co-host of the No Shame Babe podcast. Yeah, me and Jamie are best friends. We've known each other for, oh man, how many years have we known each other?
Like 6 or 7 years. It's been quite some time. So yeah, it's fun. We're really excited to be on your show today. This was a pleasant surprise in our emails. So
you know, we set that first our email up and we're like just waiting for something exciting to come in.
No, I appreciate you being down for today, and we got to thank my manager Carlos because he's just been booking a bunch of guests and booking me for shows as well. But we're really focusing on folks that we feel like the platforms would really mesh, and not to have like people who group think and just in one, because we want people who think differently as well, right? But just your concepts and the things that I speak about on the show, he felt like it would be a good match and a good balance, So, and especially you being a Canadian podcast, he felt like it was necessary that we connect. So thank you for being on the show, on the Who and How Club today.
yeah, so exciting. When I first saw the email, I was like, is this real?
Is it real?
Yeah, we always
No, it's real. And I'm eternally grateful. I want to just, mentioning that your show, you both are Canadians yourselves and you have a Canadian podcast. Let's talk about where you're from just quickly so that the people get familiar. So you have this show, the No Shame Babe podcast, and you both are stationed in Calgary, right? Oh, no, sorry, Edmonton. I apologize. Yes, Edmonton.
It's Calgary. It's a bit nicer.
Yeah. I've been to Calgary once, so I've never been to Edmonton, so talk to the listeners and to the club about like what life is like. We're gonna get into the dating life at some point, but just regular life. Like, what's it like in Edmonton for those that don't know?
I've been here longer, but Kerstin, what do you think about Edmonton being like this is your first like full year living here?
Yeah, I actually live in like a little town just outside of the city, so I'm in like a nice like area between my parents and like Jaymie and the city, and
Are you
so
a bit more rural where you are?
yeah,
Like,
yeah. It's just a little town just outside. I don't know, it's about 40 minutes into the city from where I'm at.
yeah.
I actually didn't grow up in this area. I grew up in southern Alberta, and like Jaymie said, this has been my first full year living in this area, but I'm kind of torn because of COVID and like didn't really get to experience a lot of Edmonton.
Right.
Me and Jam were on lockdown together for the most part, but I would say, I don't know, I feel like Edmonton has it has like, I don't know, it has like a very fun vibe. Downtown area is really chill. I don't know. Jam.
Over the past like 4 or 5 years, I would say that downtown has like really grown into a more like inclusive area. There's been a lot more recognition for like the LGBTQ community. There's a lot of like local artists that get contracted to like paint walls, so that's pretty awesome. There's this one area downtown on 124th Street, and they have a food truck party every Thursday in the summer. So that's yeah, right. I would say like maybe like since I've been legal, a lot has like changed in the downtown and like nightlife in Edmonton. But like it's a good place. They have the most amazing parks and walking trails. That's like probably my favorite part of the city is being able to walk. The vibe is pretty chill. People are pretty nice, but you definitely get those like stuck up people like you do everywhere. But I live in a suburb, like also just outside of Edmonton, like 15 minutes, and it's St. Albert. And we always joke it being white suburbia with white moms and blonde ladies with their Escalades and their
we see on
yeah, I'm like, okay. It's a time. And St. Albert, that's what it's called. It's a place, it's like the bubble. It's like hard to leave the bubble.
So like if I came to Edmonton, like what are the top 2 spots like you ladies would take me to? Like what would we top 2?
Oh yeah, we go to White Ave, and then
sorry, what?
We'd go to White Ave, which is like the downtown.
White Ave? Okay.
Yeah,
it's like downtown. It's like this.
It's a district. Like, it's like a district, like a.
Yeah, it's like across. So like downtown, and then there's like this bridge, and then like White Ave's like they're like vintage Edmonton, where like a lot of the original buildings and structures and like cool old bars, very hipster, very like lots of vegan restaurants on that strip, but also really fun atmosphere and like boutique kind of bars. Very cute.
Yes. It sounds like our over here in Toronto, it sounds like our Kensington Market or like our Queen Street.
Oh yeah, it definitely is. I've been to Toronto like twice, but never as an adult.
Okay. So let's talk about let's start with the foundation and just figure out who you two are as individuals, and then we're going to talk about your relationship as a collective and as a duo, right? But I'd love to know, like, how would you answer the ultimate question that a lot of us don't know how to answer? Who are you?
Do you want to go first?
I'll go first.
There's no right or wrong answer, but I'm just curious, like a lot of us define ourselves by our name. The first thing a person will say is like, yeah, I'm Arys, I'm Jaymie, I'm Kerstin, but you're more than that. That's just a title. Or like some folks define who they are by what they do. So, but that's not who you are, so who are you?
Well, I have been actually figuring this question out for the last year and a half. So I would say, first and foremost, I'm resilient more than anything. I'm a very resilient individual. I'm incredibly empathic, and I've come from a lot of ups and downs in my life. I share them openly quite often. And I feel like I am one of those people who learns life's lessons the hardest way possible so that I can then...
So you wrote the bio on the website. the description.
That was her.
No, I do like all the web stuff. She does all the editing.
No, I remember that part being on there, like the learning things the hard way and gaining from that hard way that we put ourselves through sometimes. I could relate to that, so we'll dive into that. But yeah.
Definitely. I would also say I am a sister, an auntie, a daughter. My family is very, very important to me. My job as well. I work with youth, and I don't know. I love my job, so there's that. I can't talk too much about it just because
it's hard, eh? No, it's okay. I work in the social services field. I work with youth as well, so yeah.
Who am I? I am an Aquarius.
Yes.
It makes me I'm complicated. I also have I live with mental illness that I constantly am working through and always like trying to heal from, or not heal from, but like learn to live with and like still thrive with. Yeah, I'm a friend. Got my bestie here.
Thank you. Yeah. Go ahead. You want to say one more?
Yeah, do you have more to say?
No, I think that's me for now.
You for now, and then we'll dive in.
Oh yeah, we're gonna dive. You said a lot. We're gonna dive in, but thank you. That was beautiful. Thank you.
Okay, well, I'm Jamie. That's my name. I am a Cancer, so I feel like I live up to that. I'm very like a shell, and then once you get to know me, I cry all the time. So I don't let a lot of people see my emotions, and I let the people closest to me see them, and they usually get the shit end of the stick. So that's awful. But I appreciate it. I too am a sister. My younger sister means the world to me, and we're very close, best friends, I would say. She's also my little roommate. I define myself a lot by what I do. So trying to figure out like that question of like who you are. I am a workaholic. I never stop. So I'm learning how to slow down, and where I'm not like thankful. I hated COVID, but COVID gave me the opportunity to just like chill the fuck out and be like, hey girl, just take a seat. You don't have to do this. So I definitely learned how to just let things be. I am eccentric and I love to be the center of attention. So I feel like that's too honest. We love it. It's good. I love that for me. Yeah, but I think I'm a good friend. I definitely have some flaws that I work through on a daily, but so does everyone. But yeah, I think that's I don't know if that answered the question of like who I am. That's just like, hey, I'm Jamie. This is my pile of garbage that I have for my life.
Well, I feel like something you said was like we all have like that pile of garbage or that thing, those things in our lives, right? But a lot of people don't acknowledge them. Like we pretend like they don't exist, or we're like these perfect beings when we're so flawed, and like I don't think becoming flawless should be anyone's goal, but a step to that would be acknowledging your flaws, You gain some sort of strength in that when you acknowledge that, hey, you know what? I have some areas I really need to work on, or like these are my flaws and I'm happy with them, but I love to improve, make sure that I don't have these in my life anymore. And that's like one step to getting kind of better, you know, and being a better version of yourself. So acknowledging those things is like a step, you know. So
Oh, absolutely. I think the first step into anyone's healing journey is to take a look in the mirror and then reflect on yourself. You feel like, okay, so it's not everyone else's fault. There's a common denominator, and it's usually you.
100%. Like you're the star of your movie, right? And I feel like it's funny that you kind of mentioned mirrors. I've been having these conversations with a lot of people this past week about mirrors. And I want to talk to you ladies about mirrors and what your thoughts are on the concept of a mirror. Like it's a tool, I feel, right? Like you do have to use it to look at yourself, to look at oneself, look in your own eyes and see what maybe other people might see or what you're not seeing. Because we don't see ourselves throughout our days. Other people see us, right? So that mirror, we can use it to really, you know, like reflect on oneself. Like you could see the universe in your eyes if you look at yourself. You know what I mean? So what are your thoughts on like really just looking at yourself and reflecting? Does it weird you out, or what do you see when you look at yourself?
I actually have a really complicated relationship with mirrors. I think, and me and Jam can both relate to this. Like at one point in my life, I wasn't like this physical person. Like literally I was 315 pounds at one point in my life. And so as I've lost weight and transitioned to the body that I physically sit in now, looking in the mirror has been strange for me. Sometimes I have a really distorted reality of what I actually see, but in terms of connecting to like myself internally, I do a lot of mirror work, like physically looking at myself and trying to see reality, see that like my body is different now. And also you're right, like physically seeing your face, your eyes, and connecting with that. I've had some pretty powerful like emotional moments by using that and doing mirror work. And one of the actually most helpful things that I've done is I posted a picture of myself when I was like a young like little kid. And every day I would do that mirror work of like, okay, what would I want this little baby to have heard and said? And like, now you have the opportunity right here, say this to yourself. And like, yeah, mirrors can be incredibly powerful and incredibly healing. However, I also have to keep in mind that I don't swing to the other aspect of it, because in the past, mirrors have been a place where I've obsessively critiqued myself, where I've torn myself to pieces, where I have thought the ugliest of thoughts at myself. And at one point, there was a time where I avoided them altogether because it was actually impacting myself more than it was worth. Like I had to ask myself, like, this reflection you see, like, what's the point of looking at it if all you're going to do is berate yourself? So I had to get to a place where that wasn't the norm. I had to work on that inner talk. So
Question before Jaymie answers for you, Kerstin. When you look at yourself today, do you recognize yourself, or is this a new self? How do you, like, you know, what do you see when you now?
It depends on the day. Honestly, some days I look at myself and I feel like, yeah, my outside finally matches how I felt about myself inside for so long. And then there are days when it's like, oh my God, like nothing's changed. Nothing has changed. And those old plots are still there. And it's hard. But for the most part, when I see myself now, I tend to try and fall in a place of neutrality. Like, yes, I'll give myself that extra love, but it's nice to just be able to have a mirror just be a mirror too. Like just a place to make sure
you don't have any food on your face.
Exactly. Like,
yeah.
It's nice to not have that mirror right here, like, have power over you. So.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Well, I work in a mirror every day. So I'm a hairstylist. My job is to literally look in a mirror, talk to my client, make sure everything's even. But by doing that, I would say like at the beginning stages of my career, I was not who I am today. But I had to constantly look at myself, and like Kerstin, I hated looking at myself in the mirror because I just had so much going on internally, and it reflected externally, like in my skin, and just my grandma always told me that I glow. And I felt like there was a period of time in my life where like I didn't glow, and I was like this little sad rain cloud, and I'd like see it every single day that I'd look in the mirror, and like Kirsten, I would stand in front of it and just like, well, you need to change this and you need to change this. Your hair doesn't sit right this way, blah, blah, like all these negative things. So I feel like now I look at myself in a mirror and I'm like, girl, you got it. It's great. And what's amazing with my career too is because I work so closely, and some of my clients I've been with for 10 years, they see the difference too. And I've grown with them and they've grown with me. So a lot of my clients have gone through rough times when I was going through rough times. And now we look at each other today when I'm doing their hair and we glow. And I'm like, this is such a positive thing, and we have nothing negative to say. So yeah, I don't know. I love a good mirror. When I walk by one, I check myself out. It's great. But for a long time, didn't do it. I was just like, girl, stop. Don't look at me.
I understand. Yeah, we have to also battle with vanity, right? We have to make sure that we're not feeding into the vain demon or the vanity demon, but using it. It's like money, right? Like money is a tool that has been created for us to use, but it's not the end all be all. It's just another tool that we could use to do things or to connect with ourselves on a deeper level if we're not afraid to, or if we've gotten over those self-conscious or insecurity, like those things that we battle with on a day-to-day basis, just being beings, Some of us are afraid to look at ourselves because we're afraid of what we're going to see or what we haven't faced yet,
Yeah. My relationship and I suffer from body dysmorphia, and it wasn't until like COVID that I really like actually understood what that was and started to like heal from it, because I would pick myself apart to the point where I would cry and just like really like not talk nicely to myself, even though I was in like a healthy, not so healthy journey, but in my head it was a healthy journey. And then I would like look in the mirror and be like, still like, you need to fix this part about you. And now that I've like changed my relationship and my thinking towards like other things, I recognize my body dysmorphia and I look in a mirror and it's fine. But my boyfriend also has this and he doesn't admit that he has it. So when he looks in the mirror and he's always like, it's like, okay, sir, can we please stop because you're wrecking my healing?
You're hilarious.
Yeah, you're wrecking.
What a couple of weeks ago, I made an appearance on a podcast called Conversations for Days, right? And the theme of that episode was about positive versus negative thinking. And we also kind of spoke about positive talk and negative talk, positive self-talk versus negative self-talk. Which category do you feel you two kind of lean in towards right now in the spaces that you're at in your lives? Like, are you a positive self-talker right now? Are you half and half, or how do you talk about yourself?
I think I'm a positive self-talker. And I think for the past like 4 years, I've been like fairly positive self-talk, but I would say it's been authentic and truthful for the past year. I was always like a fake it till you make it person. Like if you say something enough, it'll just happen. So even though I was like in this sad, depressing space years ago, I felt like, you know what? I'm just going to like say that I'm happy. I'm going to be this boss bee and don't feel like it, whatever, but I'm not going to talk negatively about myself. Did I believe it? No. But now I'm like, I believe it. It's great. So I would say I'm a positive self-talker. Now.
No.
Yeah, now.
What about you, Kerstin?
I would say actually, like before my surgery, before I went and got my weight loss surgery, I had to really work on this about myself. I had to learn, because I knew the root of why I ate the way I did and the way my body was the way it was a huge part of it was the way I thought about myself and the way I talked about myself. And so for a long time, a year before my surgery, I worked on that. And so I would say I lean more towards the positive. However, it's also been really recently that I've been able to let go of some core beliefs I had about myself. I've been doing a lot of therapy, and one of the biggest revelations I've had recently is that I had this core belief about myself that I didn't deserve to exist. And it was like showing in my behaviors and impulsive decisions I was making, unhealthy relationships I was engaging in. And so I was like distraught because like I know I care about myself. I'm not this person that was doing these crazy irrational things at one point in my life. And once I had that realization and we worked through it in session, I've been able to shift that from this feeling of not deserving to exist in this world to now I deserve to take up space and I deserve to be here and be present and to shake things up in the world. And it's been really recently that I've been able to truly feel that at my core, because I feel like there's ourselves, there's our two selves, right? Like there's this part that I know all this, I know, like, but to actually feel it in you and to like really have that play a role in your life, yeah, it's really impactful. And it's been just recently that that's happened for me. I remember the day I phoned Jamie, I was like, I had an epiphany, and she's like, yeah, man, I've been telling you this for months. Good job.
And it doesn't matter. No matter how many times someone tells you something, unless you feel it for yourself, you're not gonna transition into that next stage or phase of your life, or understanding of yourself, or confidence in yourself, or acceptance of yourself. You got to go through that yourself and feel it, and then finally that aha, like, wow, I'm me, and this is who I want to be, and I'm accepting of this, like I'm alive, and this is how I look, this is what I was given, and I'm gonna run with it, and I'm gonna do something with it, as opposed to allowing it to, or allowing other people's views of you to shape you in some sort of negative light. Like it's about you and how you view yourself. So
yeah, like a trip. Like, I don't know why people feel the need to do drugs. Like, you just like have to reflect on yourself, and you're like, okay, like, yeah, I'm tripping right now. I'm alive.
Okay, so honest moment. Like, I've never tried weed or cigarettes or any drug for that matter. I've never tried it, and I don't even drink. Right?
Nice, good for you.
That is good for you. You're like an anomaly. Wow.
I have a feeling. Thank you. I have a feeling. I have a feeling that I'm going to try it at some point, and I would like to try it. I have this image in my head where, like, whoever my wife becomes, whoever she is in the future, whatever, I would like to try it with her, because I know it would be a dope experience. But I've always wanted to try like mushrooms or something to get on that next level kind of thing. Anyone who has ever taken mushrooms, they've always explained it to me like they're gonna have those revelations, and those their eyes are they're gonna see things, like layers will be removed, and I already feel like I see things already, and I'm in tune with things, but maybe that will enhance something or show me something I haven't seen yet. I don't know. I would like to try that one day, but any experiences on that front from anybody here?
Well, I'm just gonna speak on like if you ever had like. I think because like you're already like a woke person, if you ever did experiment with drugs, like
it'll get dark.
No, I think I think you'll have because you already have such an amazing understanding of yourself. You'll have the best time.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've definitely had some bad trips, and I've definitely had some awesome trips where I think the bad ones were when one, I was just way too hot and it was just not a good environment outside. Should have waited.
Yes.
But I was also like in a space where I was figuring out like who I was. And I think the environment that I was in just wasn't like for me. And I would, at that point, I was like, I would fly off the seat of my pants, or like how do you say that? Fly off the seat of my pants. Is that the thing?
I've never heard that. Is that an Edmonton thing?
Fly off the handle?
Yeah, that.
Handle. Yeah.
That, yeah.
Fly by the seat of your pants?
Yes, that. Whatever that is.
You're teaching me something. I don't know.
But I was very like impulsive. People would be like, "Oh, do you want to take this?" I'd be like, "Sure, give me all the drugs." And it was a time. And then I would like feel bad the next day because I was like, "Did Jaymie really want to do that, or did like Jaymie just want to, like
the other Jaymie, the other
versions of yourself? Which one's the correct one?"
Yeah.
So I haven't done anything like drugs minus weed, but I don't think weed's a drug. It's like just
so
my
no,
day.
No ayahuasca or like the tea, any tea.
No, I haven't done anything in like years, and I think it's because of the last time that I did it, I was like, I'm done. Like I did it. I'm good. I've lived, and I don't need to be this person anymore. I just like said goodbye to the party girl and was like, "Hey, bye."
I'm 32, so I want to try it at some point. I just don't know at what point, but we'll see. But I'd love to share that experience with somebody. I don't think I want to be by myself, or it has to be some sort of like the ayahuasca thing. Like I want it to be what's the term I'm looking for? Like
euphoric.
I know it'll be therapeutic, but also sort of not like like a ritual. I want it to be around a bunch of people. I want to be free in nature and experience it with people that just have good energy and stuff like that. So that's on like the bucket list.
That's what you do. Music festival in the trees.
Yeah. Let's close off. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, the first time I did mushrooms was in Thailand. I got a cup of fresh little mushrooms right off the beach, and I was high as for like 11 hours. And I can actually say that experience was like truly, it alters your mind. They need to study mushrooms more and like how it can open up consciousness, because like that trip truly changed me. Yeah, I don't know. I dabbled this past year. Like I kind of went a little wild, and when COVID hit and everything, and I experimented for the first time in my life with a couple of drugs that did not sit well with me, did not interact well with me, and I stay away from them now because it's not nice when Jaymie has to yell at me at parties.
She's babysitter. She's the babysitter while you're
the best trip sitter though. Jam loves it.
I do. I have like a bag of things. I'm like, what do you need? Like they like rave.
Funny story. Funny story. So the last time we did mushrooms, we went out to this campsite, and me and Jam stopped at a grocery store, and this girl grabs bubbles, and I'm like, I don't care. But she gets there, and everybody's like making fun of her for bringing bubbles. Right? Like those bubble wands, right?
Yeah, okay.
All the boys are making fun of her. Why'd you bring bubbles? This is so lame. Like they're trying to be all tough.
Bubbles are cool.
A half hour later, they're all tripping on mushrooms, and these bubbles are the best thing they've ever experienced in life. And everybody's like, Jaymie, this is so great.
I told you.
That's what I want. I want bubbles. I want bubbles, nature, and just love in the air. You know what I mean? And freedom. I'm a Taurus. So I'm an earth sign. So I need my feet planted into the ground. I need to be climbing a tree. I just need to be around water. Like I just love the nature overall. So I'm hoping I'm excited for that experience at some point. But yeah, I don't even know. Like if you asked me, like I wouldn't even know where to go to get that. Like I want something of the earth. I don't want to just buy it from a guy, or like it has to be really planted and like, just, I don't know.
What like kind of music are you into?
I like all. I like all. Like I think you know what I would listen to if I did go? I would be like some like there's this Smashing Pumpkins song. It's
Okay,
called like The End is the Beginning is the End is the Beginning. I don't know if you know that one.
I do.
It is dark but like beautiful. Or like I would listen to like AWOL Nation Sail. I would listen to like my favorite like like I would that those types of sounds or like the soundtrack to like Tron, like Daft Punk, like I know I would see colors, like
I did mushrooms one time at a friend's house, and there was probably about like 15 of us. The whole house, we like made it like the living room, like a really comfortable space, pillows, blankets. Everyone had coloring books, snacks, and we were watching Rick and Morty. And there's this one song called by Chaos, and it's called Do You Feel It?
yeah,
And this song, when it was like on like Rick, the guy, he was having like an epiphany during like this song, and then I was like watching like Rick's reaction, and I was like in the feels, started to tear up, and I was like, I'm Rick, I know what he's feeling right now. I went upstairs into the bathroom and like looked at myself in the mirror, and it's just like, girl, you
you're
got
right.
this. And then I went downstairs and colored. It was great. But it's a 4-minute song. I don't know, but I listen to it now and it just brings me back to that like epiphany, like weird, I got this moment. And I'm like, oh yeah, good times. Good times.
Let's close off the positive and negative talk segment quickly, and if we could just quickly play a game of like sharing one thing that you say to yourself that's in the positive category and one thing that's negative that you don't say to yourself anymore. I'll play along. But
Okay.
one positive that you say to yourself now, positive talk, right? And then one thing negative talk from the negative talk category that you don't say to yourself anymore.
I always tell myself that I'm going to be super successful and nothing's going to stop me. And before I went on my success workaholic journey, I'd be like, you're going to amount to nothing. You need a man to carry you. And now I don't need him. So that's me.
For me, I would say in the past, it was like I would tell myself I was worthless all the time, like that you're worthless, you're hard to love, that you're crazy, that nobody will care for you, right? Now I tell myself often that I can do this, that I'm okay, that everything will be okay. I tell myself that I have power, that I have love and support around me, and that I am cared for.
Yeah. Thank you. For me, it's like that mirror. Every morning, like I look at myself, I'm like, I'm that guy. That's what I say to myself now, because I wasn't confident in that before. So that's what I find myself saying or reminding myself of now. Like, just I'm that guy. I'm that person. I'm a hard worker. I'm creating things. I'm trying to bring my ideas to life, and I've never given up. Like I'm that guy. I'm here for a reason. So let's kill it while we're here. And something that I stopped saying to myself is that I'm a taker. I used to believe that I was that because a lot of people would say that, but I'm really a giver. I'm really a giver. But I started to believe that I was a taker just because people couldn't get what they wanted out of me. So it seemed like there was an imbalance between my relationship with those individuals just because maybe I was getting what I wanted and they weren't. So they would label that as me being a taker. But I just know myself. I know how to maneuver, and I can't, if others don't, like it's not, everything happens for a reason. Your relationships, your situationships, your whatever, like, but I did believe that I was a taker. I would just take, I never gave. But I look at the field that I'm in, I look at the platforms that I've created, they all represent giving. When I see a homeless person on the street and I only have $5 in my wallet, I give to that person. I give my time and energy to people. So for someone to ever say like you're a taker when you really do the opposite, it's like we really listen to people, right? Sometimes we believe what they see in us, and we conjure it up. It's like, yeah, I am a taker, so you believe that, and you might even become a taker because you manifested it based on what someone else was saying. But you have to kind of block that out and know yourself and look at like really pick apart what you actually do, what you do. Like if you are a giver, look at all the times you've given and then balance it out with the times you've taken. And it's like, I give more than I take, so I'm not a taker.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah,
so
I relate to that so much. 100%. Yeah. You said it. Took the words right out of my mouth.
great. And thank you for sharing, ladies. I appreciate it. There is something that we usually do on the show when we have a guest. We ask people to, like, after the who are you part, we ask people how would they define themselves in like 2 or 3 words, right? And even on the guest form on the website, it's there. But I wanted to kind of do something different today and like talk about both of your friendship, like your friendship that you two share with one another. How would you define the relationship that you both share in 2 words?
I would say.
You go.
I would say.
I'm feeling the bestie energy through this screen. It's just seeping through. So I could tell you two. I at one point I thought you two were sisters. I couldn't like when I
get that a lot actually.
Pardon me?
We get that a lot.
Yeah, when my manager showed, I'm like, oh, these 2 sisters have a podcast, and then oh, you're just friends. So I'm curious to know how you would define your relationship with one another or your friendship.
I would say it's unique foremost. Like we have a pretty unique story on how we connected, and then I would say it's authentic. Like I've been able to be my most authentic self with Jaymie.
Yeah, I agree. I also think non-judgmental could that be one? Because
a non-judgmental relationship.
Yeah, like I know that even though it takes me a lot to say what I want to say, Kerstin won't ever judge me and vice versa. So, and yeah, I think authentic too, like non-judgmental, unique, and authentic in 3 words. Yeah, I don't know. We're different, that's for sure. And lots of people say that, and it's nice to have a friendship like that. We both come from bad friendships of long terms, and yeah, I think we just assess like what we want and don't want in a person, and if like a person brings value to your life in whatever way you seek value, that's what a friendship should be. And Kerstin brings so much value to my life in so many ways, just being there. Like she's just always there, and even if she's not in like a good headspace, she's always like making sure like I'm okay. And it's the same way, but we both have different communication styles when we're manic. So navigating that has been, I don't want to call it like a struggle because it's not, but it's not taking it personally. And we communicate that like, hey, I'm feeling this way. Don't take it personal. It's nothing you did, but this is just how I'm feeling right now. And I'm just working through my feelings. And because we're both so into mental health and recognize these things about ourselves, we're like, okay, that's fine. I'll take a step back. Like when I'm ready, I'm ready. Yeah. I think that's my favorite part of our friendship.
I really think, yeah. And I feel like we're in a new little mini phase between us here right now, because like life has shifted back to normal now. And like for the past year and a half, me and you have like literally spent a year and a half building our friendship. And now life has to go back to this normal, whatever that is. And we're still both dealing with like the mental health fallout that was COVID. And yeah, we've had a couple of like moments where we've both had to like relearn to communicate as we go through these like struggles, right? Like I know for myself, there was a time where I was really anxious that Jam was like gonna be angry with me or upset or on. And it's been unique in figuring out like our new norm, I suppose, with
each other.
Yeah.
Through this COVID. Yeah. Healthy challenges are good amongst friendships. Like if you're not challenging one another, if you're not having those, I won't use the term struggles, but healthy challenges, right? Like it only steel sharpens steel. And if you two have already agreed that you're going to be friends, then you roll with whatever comes with that, including those sort of challenging moments, those challenging conversations, the struggles with having patience for each other. You're doing a podcast together, so I'm sure there are some challenges and debates in those moments when you're creating together, right? I think the best friendships are when you can create together. And a lot of the friends that are in my life right now, we're creating together. And I feel like it just makes the friendship stronger. You know what I mean? Do you agree?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Actually, a few months ago.
Podcast is, go ahead, Jen.
Oh, sorry. A few months ago, Kerstin and I were like talking about like the dynamic of our podcast. And she was like, I think we need to just like talk about like our strengths and weaknesses. And I was like, I don't have any weaknesses, only strengths.
So you know what I'm dealing with, right? Like
That's it. My grandmother is a Cancer. That's a Cancer. That's a Cancer. You sound like my grandma. Stop that.
But then I got real and I was just like, weakness doesn't work well with others. Like I have two very individualistic jobs. And then I have Kerstin. Oh my God. Loki, shut up, my cat. Sorry. Yeah, very individual, but
that's what the episode is going to be called today. I have no weaknesses. We're going to quote you. unless Kerstin, you come up with a better one throughout our convo, then you know.
That one, or I don't work well with others.
I used to be like that. I could relate to. I used to say those things. I used to say like, it's such a beautiful thing when you come out of that, when you let go of your ego and you kind of push things to the side. And
yeah.
I think there's more power in being like, yeah, I do have weaknesses, and these are them. Deal with them. Here, my weaknesses. You got it. You want to stay here? These are my weaknesses. Can you handle it? Because only the strong will survive, you know? As opposed to pretending like I have none at all and I'm whatever. Like, no. I think being flawed and being vulnerable and admitting to those things, there's more strength in that than the opposite. So.
Oh, I totally agree.
I feel like our relationship has also been like, huh? Oh.
Say that again, Kerstin?
Are you frozen?
You're chipping out. Can you hear me?
Sorry, did I pause? Oh, there you go. It got lagged for a second. Yeah.
You're frozen. You're frozen on my end, but I can hear you. I can hear you. Yeah. Damn you, Zoom.
There, is that better? There, that's better. Yeah, on how me and Jam became friends, I feel like. So she was dating my uncle, and my uncle is significantly younger than me due to some like.
Oh, one of those, yeah.
Yeah, some family.
That's always a weird thing.
And
calling
so
your aunt's like 8 years old.
Yeah.
Auntie Marie, you know, still wants ice cream, and you take your aunt out for ice cream. Like, it's the weirdest thing.
And so Jam did my hair one day, and like we just clicked right off the bat, and I was like, man, I need more friends. Do you want to be my friend? And literally that was it, like from there. And so I lived north of the city with my ex-husband at the time, and so we would like catch up whenever I would come down to the city, or whenever I needed my hair done. I would always go to Jamie. And then, when COVID hit and I left that relationship, my marriage, like Jam was there and she had me, and it was really incredible through that. And then in January, my uncle passed away suddenly, and it was really, 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 really hard for both of us. He had a really special place in Jamie's heart. I was finally in a point in my life where I was going to be able to start connecting with him again after so much distance. And then very suddenly we lost him. And so we had this friendship and this dynamic that was so like powerful. And then on top of it, we get these life circumstances that just rocked us in 2021 so far. And So in a matter of months, we lost my uncle, and then I lost my grandfather, who was his dad. So it's been a whirlwind. We've been through it.
Wow. I'm sorry for your loss.
Thank you.
I know it's a bit generic to say sometimes in these moments, but I am sorry for your loss, because I've been going through some loss as well, especially through work and the clients that I don't like to refer to them as clients, but the residents that work where we've had a couple deaths recently as well, and it's like it's weird. It's weird when someone is here today and then not here tomorrow, and then all you have in your mind is that, like, that last moment you interacted with them, like you had no idea in that moment that was your last moment.
Yeah.
But then when they're not here tomorrow, you, in retrospect, it's like, if only I could have said more, or if only I could have done more in that moment. You know what I mean? Like, it's challenging.
Okay.
Oh,
Sorry, I'm like crying.
no, this is a safe space. You know what I mean? Like, I want us to talk about this stuff. So thank you. I appreciate you sharing all of that. I could only imagine. That probably brought you two closer, though.
It did. It cemented us, and I think it was an experience that neither of us really had gone through. I know that Jan's experienced some grief, and I'd experienced some loss in my life, but nothing this close to home, nothing this earth-shattering. And I mean, the way that we lost him too was horrible, and it played back into mental health. And I just won't go into detail because it was awful, but it really just rocked us both at our core. And I mean, you learn what true friendship is through these types of situations. And I mean, I'm grateful that we had the podcast through this. When the dust settled, it was something for us to refocus ourselves back on and to really help pull us up and out of the depths. And yeah, it's been transformational the past almost 2 years. Like,
It's been a time. Like, I honestly don't know what I would do without Kerstin, and like the loss of my ex. I hate calling him that too, because he was so much more than that to me. He was like my best friend. Even though like we were separated, we talked every day for like 7 years. Like, that's like a significant time. Yeah. And even though like I have a very healthy and stable relationship now, like I consider myself very lucky to have like two loves of my life, because like he was like ever since he's been gone, like I feel like a piece of me is gone. And just with Kerstin here, like she was there for like a lot of like the ups and the downs of that relationship. And well, the day that it happened, I was literally getting ready to go cut his hair, and then she's like, "I'm coming over." And I'm like, why? I'm just getting ready to do this. And she's like, "Yeah, I'm coming over. Be right there." And then like she told me, and like I don't think I like believed it. I still don't. Like, it's a very hard thing, grief. I'll be like fine one day, and then seconds into a conversation, I cry literally. So it's been a time, but it's good. Like, you get through it.
If you both are comfortable with this, I think we should really let's just take a moment. Let's just take a moment, and a moment of silence to just, pay tribute, because these were people that were in our lives, and I think they hear us talking about them right now. They're probably with us. So I feel if we just take a moment and honor them, and if you need to get some Kleenex or something, this is really a safe space. That's why I created this platform for stuff like this. So let's just take a moment of silence, and the listeners out there as well do the same. If you've lost anybody, especially during these times of COVID, someone dear to you, a family member, a fellow colleague, a friend, one of your clients, let's just take a moment all together as a club and just pay our respects. Let's take a deep breath together, yeah? On 3. Inhale. 1, 2, 3.
That's good.
You good?
Thank you. Yeah, we're good.
Good. Kerstin, you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
I really thank you for sharing all of that. I was not expecting any of this. We're just gonna throw out all these questions and just talk. We're just gonna talk. Quick question. So you're at 16 episodes of the show, correct?
Yeah.
16 episodes. The last episode killed me, by the way, but I want the folks listening in and watching, I want them to get to know you too, because them going back to listen to the show will mean that much more once we get to know you at your core and just pieces of you. You know, this won't be the first time we talk. This is like a part one of many, right? Like we're gonna get to the goal of the Who and How Club is to keep that club membership inclusiveness, but also exclusivity going, you know, and bringing people back and having conversations to see where they're at and all that jazz. So I wanted to know, like, what do you think you've kind of said some you've kind of addressed this, but what makes the show work for both of you, do you feel?
I think it's our different, like, we have such different life experiences, but it ultimately comes down to, like, they're same, but different. Like, I don't know. And there's an age gap as well in us that gives us different perspectives, I think. And I think we work because we truly do, like, the podcast is No Shame Babe. Like, we've both worked really hard in our lives to live as genuinely and authentically and without shame. I mean, as women, shame is like applied to us from the moment we're born. Like, it's so it's something that we work really hard to, like, strip away. And I think the pod works because we also give people a place to relate and to feel safe. And the feedback that we get time and time again is, oh my God, I felt that way too. Oh my God, this has happened to me too. I can relate to that. Yeah, I don't know. It works because I think we don't care.
Yeah.
We don't care what people think about us. We don't. People are like, I listen to your podcast. I'm like, oh God, what episode was that?
That's a key to life, not caring what people think about you. That's like a cheat code. Like,
in like my healing journey, I think by maybe in like 2017, 18, I think that's when I developed that, like, I literally don't fucking care about anything. And then I was like reckless and a hot mess. And like, that's when I was just like, give me all the drugs. And now it's like, okay, like I literally don't care, but you don't have to do that. So I think the willingness to be open is definitely key to our dynamic as a friendship and dynamic as a podcast, and just like being open-minded. Like, everyone's going to have different experiences, but everybody could relate to something on some level. And I love also when people are like, okay, like, but that wasn't my experience with this. Like, this happened to me. I'm like, hey, the girl, thanks for sharing. Or I have a few male friends that are listeners and they've texted me. They're like, okay, I can't even listen to this episode because it's just so wrong. I'm like, yeah, but it's based off of our experience. So if you feel like a certain way, thank you for sharing. I'm going to share this perspective on the next episode, like, if that's cool with you. So yeah, just being open.
I also think just the timing of the pod when it started, like I said, COVID hit. I left a marriage of 10 years, and my life was like completely in upheaval, like 100%. The worst case it could have been, it was that. And like, so I came out of that a crazy hot mess, and I was on a tear. And like, so
Kerstin, you and I are gonna speak offline. We're gonna do an episode solely on that topic. You and I am planning so much in my head after I read on you both and like the show and listening to the show. Like, we could literally, we're gonna
forever.
That 10-year thing. I have a lot of questions for you. So we might not cover all of that today, but even though I wanted to, I want to talk to you one-on-one and bring you back on the show and talk about that experience, like being married for a decade and it not going according to plan, so to speak, but you're still here and still thriving, right? And I want to know about the things you learned from that relationship and all of that. I came out of my longest relationship, which was 6 years, last year, right before COVID hit, right before.
Yeah, I heard that so much this year. Like it ended just before COVID.
So we're gonna touch on that. Don't give that one away because that's a gem.
Okay. But yeah, it's been funny because I came out like on a tear, and like Jam has already like lived that. It's like through my 20s, I was like settled down.
Yeah, you two have switched. You two have switched the role.
Yeah, we really did. And so it's been like,
Jamie was
like, how do I date? Like, how do I do this? How do I talk to people? She's like, oh my God.
What has been your most favorite episode to record thus far?
Honestly, like all of them for different reasons, but I think like I think our most recent episode that's out right now is probably like my favorite one, just because like that we get more and more comfortable and like a little just more funny, more insightful as the time goes. So I think it's just going to keep getting better and better. But I feel like the most real, authentic, and like educational episode we've done is our shame episode, like discussing the different types of shame and how they play a role in everybody's lives. Because you can't just sit here and be like, everyone has experienced shame, whether it's like consciously or subconsciously, like it lives and it manifests in you. And then when you address like what kind of shame you're feeling, it's like, okay, like, let's like have some lessons on how to deal with that. And really it's just talking. Like,
we don't even share our shame.
No,
we don't share.
People view it as embarrassing or a weakness. And like, once
it's embarrassing, but it's not weak, right? The weakness part, the fear in sharing it and appearing to be weak because of that shame.
Exactly. It's strength when you can share.
Yeah. We care so much about what others will view us as that we refuse to share those things, when little do we know, if we do share those things, like someone will learn from it. Someone will gain from it. We'll find strength in it, but also someone might be able to relate to that thing. Like, we're all connected in so many ways, but when we refuse to share or hold ourselves back, no one's going to learn from us. And we're not going to we're here to learn from one another because we're all living life. Life is the common denominator here. Like, we're all alive living. We're just living in very unique, different ways, but there are still some similarities under that. And how do we find those out is when we speak with. Like, I choose my words carefully now. Like, I don't say speaking to anyone. You're speaking with someone. It's a 2 or 3 way conversation. Like, we're sharing. And you cannot take that moment for granted, whether you're a stranger or a friend or a business partner, or you're in a relationship, or your mother. You know, a lot of parents take their children for granted, their ways of thinking and their opinions, because they're the child. So there's this power dynamic, and it's like, I'm your parent, so the way I think trumps how you think. And you might not, you have feelings, but don't bring those feelings over here, because I won't be able, you're meant to feel that way because you're the child. Whatever I say goes and this and that, but no, we have to talk about how we feel here, no matter how uncomfortable it may get. Or you might have to call out your parent or whoever, you know?
Oh, I've been there, man. I've been there. And I think one of the biggest, most powerful lessons I've learned thus far is that your parents are just people too. I mean, my parents had me and my sister when they were 21 and 22. Like, what was I doing at 21 and 22? Blacked out in a field somewhere? Like, to have that awareness about yourself, to realize that like your parents did the best that they could with what they had and the circumstances.
Now it's your turn. Now it's your turn. Break the pain, break the cycle, do better for your children. You know, it's learning. It's all learning. We have to be sponges. Another thing I want to know what you two think of this is like, I was having a conversation about awareness, right? And let's just say you're sitting in a room, in a living room, and you see, like you see your parent do something, and they have this trait of theirs that you're like, I don't ever want that to become me. Like, I don't ever want to become that. I don't want to have those traits. I don't want to be that toxic or that aggressive or whatever. But then you sit with yourself and you're like, wait, I am that. I am becoming like my mom or my dad. But like, okay, you have that awareness, right? But now you do nothing with it. Like, imagine being so aware and then you limit yourself. You face a wall at that point because you're like, you do nothing with it. As opposed to saying like, okay, I'm becoming like that. Let me fix myself now so that I don't continue to be like that and then pass that down. It's in the blood, it's in the genes, right? So imagine being aware to that extent and you don't do anything with it.
Yeah.
Like, I've been there.
We all have, right?
Yeah.
Like, how can one like overcome that? Like, just yeah, okay, I'm not gonna do anything with it. Yeah, I'm stubborn just like my mom, but I'm not gonna do anything with it. Like, how did you decide to do something with it?
I think people need to realize the power of like generational trauma. And now in this day and age where we're learning more about mental health and we're learning about the impacts of like behaviors and the way that like children were supposed to be raised as seen and not heard before, and all these different mentalities that we grow up with. And I think with that self-awareness, if people have that self-awareness, yeah, my parents were shitty, this is why I am the way I am, but they don't realize that with that self-awareness comes the opportunity to change, and that there is answers underneath of that self-awareness, right? Like, it is one thing to be aware of it, but it's another thing to actually understand the inner working. So an example of that for me would be like my mental health. Like,
yes,
I know I feel depressed. I know I deal with PTSD symptoms. I know all these things. I know I'm acting impulsively because of borderline personality disorder and all these things. But it's like figuring out the actions then, right? It's realization is one thing, but it's then putting in that plan and that action to complete that goal. Like, you can think of self-awareness as just goal setting, like,
Yeah, I also think I like your mirror analogy. I'm going to bring that one back too. Just like the ability to like look at yourself and be like, do I like the person I see? I'm aware of like that I do like this, and I've adapted this trait from my dad or from my mom. What am I going to do to change that? Like, I have a temper and I'm not very nice sometimes. And I know that. And it takes, I work really hard to be able to like admit when I'm wrong and to recognize like, okay, like this is what I did and I'm sorry. And apologizing is like a big step for me because I hate admitting when I'm wrong. And I also hate apologizing to people. But I do it.
You're making me want to call my grandmother and just
but it's like something that my dad like never did up until my dad like changed, where he would never apologize for anything. Like he could literally like be like blue is spelt WFJF. And that he'd be like, I'm not wrong. Like, that's how you spell blue. Like, I'm not, but it wasn't up until like 6 years ago that he's like, hey, like, I'm sorry. And this is what I did. And that was like, I think a big shift when I was like, wow, like my dad like took responsibility for the trauma he put me through for the past like 22 years. Awesome. So like, what do you do with that? And he's like a changed person. I'm like, hey, if someone in his 50s can change, like I can change in my 20s. It's not that hard, but it's like putting in the work. And like Kerstin said, like goal setting, like, okay, like I don't want to do like that. She's pointed me in the direction of like books and audiobooks, and the Instagram pages that our podcast page follows are all about self-improvement and how to be self-aware. And even just like reading little posts like that, like you have to be able to have the ability to just like soak it in like a sponge and just sit with it. And when I release the sponge, all that excess is going to be all that stuff that I'm trying to change. Bam.
That was great, Jam.
Thanks. not just the hat rack.
Wow. Okay, but you should see this girl when she has to apologize for something. Oh my god.
Oh, we could have a full-blown episode on apologies and what the concept of an apology. I would love to deep dive into that too.
Oh my god.
Pick both of your brains on that, because I've had my bouts with what an apology really means.
No, I'm sorry you feel that way. I'm a gaslighter.
Well, I learned the hard way. I learned the hard way. I don't know if you both can relate to this, but like real apologizing is the changed behavior, right?
Yeah.
It's not the word sorry.
No.
And sorry doesn't really hold any weight if you think about it. And who is sorry for? You're saying sorry to make someone feel better about something bad you did. Mm-hmm. So when the concept of it is just like, who created this, you know? But when you change your behavior because you care about the person that you might be hurting or mistreating, even to yourself, right? We must apologize to ourselves for how we've treated ourselves. And we have to change our behavior towards ourselves, how we think, the words that we're saying about ourselves, how we view ourselves, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So apologies, I don't like anyone saying sorry to me. Like if I address something with someone, I'm not looking for an apology. I just want I want to know that you understand like how you made me feel. And then where do we go from here?
I can speak volumes to that. Back in my day, I had a long-term relationship and I cheated on the guy for multiple different reasons. And you should have never cheated on someone, but 19 and stupid, right? But I was apologizing to him. Right?
You get away with murder when you're young. We're good. Listen, 20s is the fun stage. But if you're still doing the same shit at 21, when you're 31, then we have to have a longer conversation, right? And age is just a number.
Getting married. Don't get married in your 20s. But then you get a free pass for your 30s.
No, you don't. Stop.
You get freedom in your 30s, yeah.
But I was apologizing to my ex for cheating on him. And he was like, you're not apologizing to me because you're sorry. You're apologizing because you got caught. And I was like, oh, you read me like a book. Okay, sorry. Bye.
I want to talk about the themes and titles of some of your episodes, both of you. Now, I'm gonna throw out a couple episode titles. And the first word that comes to your mind, or first couple words, you just say it, okay? All right. It doesn't matter what number episode this is of your 16, but we're just these titles kind of stuck out to me, and I'm curious to know what's the first thing that pops into your mind, because you two have already had the discussion around these topics. So we'll just start. Mastering self-awareness.
Self-improvement. That's what comes into my mind. You're thinking 1, 2, 3. Say it.
1, 2, 3. Like power, like feminine power. So that one.
Thank you. I think I love you.
Unsure.
Porn.
Did you say porn?
Porn.
Stop this.
Porn.
Stop it. Yeah, porn for sure, man.
Torn. Okay. Sorry.
What are guy friends?
Dating.
Just confusion on my part. I would say for that one is a little bit deeper for me, because as I've figured it out recently, it's connected to some other shit for me. So confusing for sure.
I look at it comfort, got comfort.
And lastly, sex on the first date.
Don't.
Discuss beforehand. That's my new policy. Don't wing it. It doesn't work.
You're killing me. I could tell I could speak to you ladies like for forever. We could dive into so many things. But the episode has gone. Pardon me?
I'm like, we need a part 2.
Definitely need a part 2 because time is going. This episode went in directions I didn't think it would go, but I'm really happy that we got this opportunity to speak. We're going to sort of work towards closing down, but we're definitely going to talk about doing another, inviting you back for a part 2 and maybe having individual episodes as well. To the theme of your show that you created, No Shame Babe, if there was something, like if there was a woman out there or a man or a male who are looking to deal with their shame or shed their shame, what kind of advice would you give to them from your perspective and your experiences that you've had in life dealing with your shame? What would you tell the people and our listeners how to deal with their shame?
My biggest...
You go first.
You gotta speak at the same time. You're good.
My biggest advice would be, and like, telling the truth kills shame. If you bring your truth forward, you talk about the things that you feel shameful about, you realize that 90% of the people in this world have felt or are feeling the same way that you are. And I mean, shame in terms of trauma as well. We live with so much trauma, and anybody who's listening, if you have like a traumatic shame that you're holding on to, telling the people closest to you, telling people who love you and support you the things you've been through is such a relief. And it doesn't take the shame away right away, but it's a huge first step in dismantling that. I mean, think about the Me Too movement and just anybody who's come forward with what they've experienced and lived. And that's been the biggest healing part for me, and dismantling that is talking about it. And I feel like that's the place we've wanted to create with No Shame Babe. We've always wanted people to have a spot where they could come share their life's experiences and feel a place that's without shame.
I think also is, if I was giving someone advice to live shamelessly, I'd be like, look at your circle, because there's probably a lot of loose ends that you can just cut out. Because at the end of the day, what you think of you is the only thing that matters. And then the support of your circle that you have around you is what you need. And then the confidence to like see that within yourself. Because really, I feel like a lot of people live for others, and they live for people that don't actually matter. And in your shame journey, when you're living for people that don't actually care about you and that don't matter to you, or if in 10 years they're not going to be a part of your life, then why do you care so much about what they think? Like, really focus on your core values and like revisit like what those things are to you. And I definitely think that family should be one, or friends that become family. Your friends are your chosen family. So
Your tribe.
Yeah, exactly. Your tribe, your people. I don't know, all these people that have like so many friends and the very superficial lifestyles, like, are those people really happy? Have they dealt with what they want? Or are they just focusing on the external and not really looking at the internal? Like, you have to be you, and in order to like live shamelessly.
I literally said those exact words on the show that I was on a couple weeks ago, because we were talking about needing friends to find oneself, and like needing things on the external, and the differences between wanting something and needing something, and us realizing that we have everything that we need, but we forget about those things that we already have because we're so focused on wanting and trying to reach for things, and surrounding ourselves in circles that aren't really feeding our souls. You can't find yourself by through the external. It's internal. Everything is inside. That's the thing that you need, you inside, and then you deal with that first, and then you could have all the fun on the external side, and those things will come your way, and they'll define you in little ways, but not in the grander scheme of things. Like, it starts with you, you know what I mean? So I hear what both of you are saying. Right now, we usually, at the end of every episode that we have guests on, there's a segment called Ask the Club. So it's where the guests get an opportunity to pose a question to the listeners or to myself, the host. And yeah, just gives a little bit of a balance to the episode. If you have any questions that you want to pose that I can answer, or our listeners could answer at a later date, if they heard anything that resonated with them, they can respond to that. Do you ladies have any questions for the club?
Yeah, I am actually very curious as to what started like your podcast journey, and like the steps that you've taken to be your authentic self.
The podcast started, the idea of a podcast started when I was working with youth. I was working with at a youth organization, and they've shut down, the location in Toronto. But at the time, I wanted to create and produce a podcast for youth, because at this organization, I was a youth there myself when I was younger. And then I worked my way up and got positions within the organization and became one of the leads in running the programs and stuff like that. And they focused on media arts. But I introduced other art forms because I'm also a poet and a rapper and everything like that. So I brought those art forms to the table when working with the youth that we were working with at the time. So podcasting was just going to be the evolution of our programming, right? I didn't get a chance to fulfill that. But after my departure from there, the podcasting thing was still in my heart, and I'm like, I wanna create another safe space for people to come and talk, and for me to talk, and it took me a little bit to come up with a concept, but just focusing on who people are. People intrigue me. I don't like people that much. Like, I like people, but to an extent, like. I like the good people. I like people who are bringing something to this world that we live, and advancing us as a civilization for the good, and treat people good. But the people who are detriment to our existence, fuck them. You know what I mean? And followers, but I'm for the people who, especially younger people, who are our future. You know what I'm saying? So long story short, I immersed myself into the podcast community over here. There were some events and a conference that I attended called PodCamp Toronto. And I attended. I was an attendee. I had no podcasting experience. I'm just like, let me go as a civilian. And I connected with a lot of people, networked. I connected with like people in the CBC room, and you had people there, just independent podcasters, but also conglomerates. And a year later, I was asked to come present at the conference. After taking everything I learned and creating what I created, I went back to give back.
That's amazing. Good for you. Nice.
So just immersing yourself into the community, I think, is important. The community that you're trying to be a part of and create around. Be a part of it. Show face. I'm here too. I'm one of you guys and girls, and let's build together and network. So I am in therapy now. That was something I wanted us to talk about. That's really helped with my growth and my realization to some certain things, and dealing with the hardships, my relationship with my mother, or not knowing who my father is, past relationships, the work that I do. I'm in social services, and I'm trying to get out of it so that I don't become jaded and hate the field. I still love the field, but I see where it can lead me to if I don't get out early. Mm-hmm. And I want to just be in media. I want to create. I'm an artist. I'm a creator. So just working through those things, you know? And like you said, both of you, like just acknowledging your flaws and being honest with yourself, it's been helping. So yeah, I hope I answered. I don't know.
Yeah,
No, that's beautiful. I'm sorry that we didn't get to talk about therapy, but therapy is a beautiful thing, and it definitely helps. Harnessing your struggles and then be like, okay, I'm gonna fix them. Here we go.
It's another tool, right? We're talking about tools. Like it's another. Part two. We'll delve more into therapy. But yeah, what else?
Okay, my question. Are you single? Just kidding.
Why are you gonna make me blush on my own show? Can we do that offline? Come on, I'm working here.
Okay, no, for real though. What has been like the biggest struggle in your podcast? Like what's been like the moment where you're like, I don't want to do this shit. Like, have you had that moment?
Wow. That's a great question. No, I haven't.
Good.
But there are days where it's just like I wanted to record, right? And because of my energy and the shift in my energy, I stopped putting an episode out. I stopped myself from putting something out because my energy was off. Like this week I recorded something. My next series is going to focus on forgiveness and the concept around forgiveness, right? And I recorded something and I'm like, no, I don't sound like myself today, you know, and I don't want the people to hear that. Like, I want to give them energy. I want to give them the joyous side of me. And even though we're talking about challenging things and things that are sort of taboo and all of that, I still want to bring a certain tone to the topic. And I listened to that episode and I'm like, what a waste of time, right? That's 30 minutes gone. And I'm not happy with what I created because we're our own critic. We're our toughest critics, right? So those are the only times where I feel kind of down. Like, fuck, I wanted to release an episode this week and I wasn't feeling it. And you beat yourself up about it. But then you're like, oh, I'll get them next week. Yeah. And they'll be there and you'll get new listeners and everything happens for a reason, I feel. So if you didn't get to record the episode this week, it's okay. Like you have to feel it. As creatives, you have to feel it. And if you don't feel it, don't do it. That's the struggle of an artist, but only artists understand that struggle.
Yeah. And I think me and Jam, we can definitely relate to that. We both have our struggles, like we've mentioned. And there has been times where both of us have been like, I can't do it. Like, I cannot record today. Like, or when we went through everything we've gone through this year, it's been really cool. And I think, we both beat ourselves up when we can't put out an episode every Sunday like we want to. And like, we have people like, where's our next one? And or like this week, I was supposed to have an episode recorded, but like literally every day this week at work, life has imploded. And so it's just like, and it's cool that we have a forgiving audience too, because they're like, where are you? We miss you. And as soon as a new episode comes out, we're getting that hype. But yeah, me and Jamie have definitely had that conversation about quality over quantity. And we're still working on the quality of my editing and my audio, but
I think it's great. I like the flow. If I were to give like the flow of your shows and your episodes and the conversations are it's so natural. Like in one of the episodes, Kerstin said something. Like she'll say these things, but I don't think Jaymie, like you both are just so in it. And it's so cool to be like a witness to it. But there will be these little things like Kerstin said dick, like, oh, too much dick or something. And like Jaymie didn't even acknowledge it. She just kept going. But it's like these little tidbits, you know, like I enjoyed listening to your show because it's two friends talking about some real life stuff and as a man, you know, listening from that perspective, it's like, I have sisters, you know, I'm the older brother. Like, I get it. I know what girls go through. And I want girls to understand what guys go through too. Like, we have to build a bridge because we're going through it. The problem that we have is that we're not talking to each other, with each other. We think there's this girl experience and this guy experience, and But
in reality, it's all so similar. Like it really is.
Well, we're trying to be together. We're trying to cohabitate. So how can we not? It's such a weird concept to fathom. Like, why aren't we talking like this with each other? Talking that raw shit and that, like, so anyway, but I like your show is what I'm trying to say. And I don't like
it means so much to us. We like your show too.
Actually, I was listening to a bunch of episodes last night. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions, ladies, for the club?
We want you on our podcast, so maybe we could
Can we talk about sex?
Yeah.
Let's do it. We'll pick a topic. It'll be great.
I'm just joking. Let's talk about everything. Please just holler at me one-on-one, and we'll set that up, and then we'll set up a part 2 for you to come back on the show and individual episodes too.
Perfect. Yeah, that'd be really fun. I don't know. Today I was like, how's today gonna go? Like, I'm talking to a computer screen. I don't love Zoom.
A stranger. But I feel like we're friends. Like, I feel like in this the first 2 minutes where it's like, okay, hey, seen you on Instagram, you're a real person. Now we're like, okay, let's go get drinks or let's have an appy. We cried in front of each other today. We had a moment of silence today together. We did things together today, and that's the point. That is the point. Let's break these walls down, and we have these individual experiences, but we could do things together too and have fun and just poke fun at ourselves and just grow together as people, so male or female, whatever. Tell the people in the club where they could find your show and find you individually.
Oh, my favorite part. Okay. So you can
find us on IG. Find us on IG at
No Shame Babe.
Follow or email us at
noshamebepodcast@gmail.com.
Our Twitter.
No Shame Babe.
We have 3 followers, so go there. We need more there. Our website,
noshamebabe.org.
Where can they listen to us?
Spotify, Amazon Music,
Apple,
all the other places.
And you could follow us individually on Instagram, Kerstin __MUA, and I'm Jam Curry. And follow me on OnlyFans. No, I'm just joking.
Jesus Christ. I was about to end the call. My heart almost jumped out my chest. Jesus. You're killing me. You too? I can't with you two, eh? You two. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been listening to the Who and How Club. Follow the No Shame Babes at No Shame Babe on IG, and you'll find their individual social media profiles. Make sure you listen to the No Shame Babe podcast. You know the slogan, you are the Who and How Club, I am the Who and How Club, and we are the Who's and How's of this world. Ladies, I want to thank you both. Today was amazing. I needed this today. It's a Sunday, and it's my self day. And I don't really do episodes on Sundays, but this was beautiful. I thought this was beautiful.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us. It's been a great time for sure. Want to do it again?
Let's stay connected offline. Let's follow each other on all platforms. WhoHowClub.com is the website. Who How Club on all social media platforms, or you can follow me at only one Arys, ONLY, the number 1 ARYS. And ladies and gentlemen, if you heard something today that sort of triggered a feeling, triggered a thought, triggered something from your past, and you want to talk about it, DM any one of us or email us at whoclub@gmail.com, and we'll keep the discussion going. This won't be the only time you see the ladies from No Shame Babe. We're going to start planning some bigger things together, and let's collaborate, and let's just...
Trip to Toronto. I think that's in order.
There
we go.
We'll do an exchange student thing. I'll come to you. I'll come to Edmonton, and then you come to TO, and we'll just do the damn thing.
It'll be so much fun. Okay, goals.
All right. Thank you again. We'll touch base offline, ladies.
See you guys.
Okay, talk soon. Bye.
Bye.
Talk to you. Bye.